distributed, not just in the Congress, but across the country. I'd like for our chairman, Mr. Cummings, to consider coming to the city of Detroit, where we've had a spiking incidence of gun homicide. And I think that this would be very, very important.
Gentlemen, would deal with this for a moment. I'd be happy to. One of the reasons why I even brought up this whole situation, and you've heard this before, the reason why I had the line of questioning I had, is because you hear people in inner cities say, wait a minute, where are these guns coming from? They have the buybacks, they do all of the police are confiscating guns, they have press conferences where they got guns piled up, and then but the guns keep coming. And they say, well, they don't manufacture any guns, and they're trying to figure out where they're coming from. And I think that this is one of the main answers of how those guns, they come from areas, I take it, that have loose gun laws, and they then send them to people like the folks in California who have strict gun laws. I'll go back to the gentleman.
Well, you reminded me that we had a buyback program, no questions asked, and there was a mountain of guns that came in. Matter of fact, the people got money for turning in the guns. And that's why I would reiterate us taking this into some of our communities would be excellent, because Detroit has been plagued by this enormous underground of deadly weapons that I can't tell you if it's getting larger or smaller because nobody knows. And it's a good issue that we ought to take up. And I'm hoping that you'll join me in that.
I'd be happy to.
Could I just ask one question of our distinguished panel, and I commend you all so much. Is there something you could recommend to us in terms of studies or publicity or promotion of the understanding of this, not only to adults, but to young people as well? I think this is a subject matter that many youngsters haven't thought about, and it would be a deterrent effect that could be, I think, useful. And I'd like any of you to comment on that, if you would.
I would say what I'd like to have happen is to see this legislation passed, and then for youngsters at a very young age to learn the severity with which such an offense would be treated, so that we don't have any up-and-coming gun owners.
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Congressman, I too agree, and I also think there needs to be that publicity piece. There needs to be some proactive work on this. As I sit here, this discussion has been a lot about minors and minors getting weapons. Think back, it used to be things about beer. You know, who will get in the six-pack, who will get in the case. Look at all the efforts that went to say, don't buy alcohol for minors, punishment for that. Why don't we have the same sort of thing with guns? It's time to make sure, not only with the minors, but also the felons, restraining orders, and also mental health. If you know somebody should not have a weapon, you need to make sure they don't get one.
Thank you so much. Chief, I'm thinking that we may not be able to wait till we get this passed before we go back out to the kids. I think that going out to the kids during the passage of it will grow the support for a lot of adults and media people who might not have made these connections that we all know about. And so I thank you very much again, Eliza Cummings. This is just right on target for what we need to do that is overdue been neglected. You put your finger on it, and with your perseverance, I think we're going to get somewhere.
Thank you very much. Ms. Slaughter.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. My understanding is that this bill is being carried by Senator Boxer and passed the appropriate committee yesterday and will be on the Senate floor without doubt, and it passed bipartisan.
That is a very similar bill. That is correct.
I think that would happen here. Obviously, it's going to be hard to
Yes.
get the bill on the floor here because the gun law is so strong. But I need to ask Mr. LeBon a question because I'm not an attorney, and the anger felt toward this young woman in Monroe County, in Rochester, is so compelling. The case, though, I think is in the hands of the district attorney. If this law were to pass, it would have no effect at all on what happened.
I believe it's being prosecuted at the federal level.
It can't be moved to federal level?
No, it's there.
It is there at federal level. I don't, under what legislation? Because we don't have any.
I know the U.S. attorney is handling the case. Sure.
I don't think we have any. Do we have any pertinent legislation in which that could be brought?
That raises a question. The question would be what was put on her, it was a 4473 form when she purchased it, because that's
probably it, Ted, false information.
Yes. I know the U.S. attorney's office is handling the case. It's not the Montgomery district attorney.
Well, in that case, Mr. LeBon, if it's already in federal court and we would pass this law here, would that have any effect at all on her case, or would it be?
No.
Would not be appropriate.
It would not be retroactive, but again, she's probably involved in what's called one of those paper violations as to what she wrote down on the form.
Right. That's not all we have to go on.
Correct. And so if that's maybe a 5-year maximum violation, if they can even get it in there, and it raises a huge question as to what was in her mind when she was filling out the form, not what is the net effect of her conduct.
Well, I'll tell you that it would almost be double dreadful for us in our county if this law would be passed and we could not avenge the deaths and the awful things that happened in our county. But nonetheless, this has got to be done. I think it's more reinforced for me today than ever that it is in our hands. And cowardice is so that I guess I shouldn't call it that. That's whatever it takes to get this done. We should summon it and get it done. Thank you all very much for what you do every single day.
Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Slaughter's been practicing law without a license.
I just used to that.
I heard over there. I was beginning to look at
Sometimes
that.
I play doctor on television.
Bobby Scott of Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your leadership on the issue. Thank my colleague from Virginia, Mr. Bridgel, and the other members of the committee, the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, and Mr. Conyers, and ranking member of Rules, Ms. Slaughter. The need for this legislation has been made clear by our witnesses, and I just wanted to ask a couple of questions to Mr. LeBon. Do federal prosecutors belong to your organization?
There are some, yes. The federal prosecutors, the AUSAs have their own organization, and the USAs also have their organization.
Okay, then you said there's no federal law. Are there state laws dealing with this?
Yes, there are. In my earlier testimony, at least I could find that handful of states, including California, Colorado, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio, and Oregon.
Are those laws as strong as the proposed federal law?
Not that I saw, no, sir.
Well, I think Ms. Slaughter raised one question. If it's a federal law, who gets to investigate and prosecute it?
It can be both. It's a federal law. You have the federal authorities investigating and enforcing that unless there's an abduction from the locals.
How effective is that for a local law? Because if you've got local street crime going on, you're more likely to dial 911 and you're not going to get a federal investigator.
And that's why I believe that this law is a good complement. The number of the states are stepping forward and are addressing this, but this complements and makes certain that you don't have a situation where if a state steps up and does a good statute, as some of these have, that suddenly someone can't go to this next state for.
Okay, now, what elements are important to have in the law? You indicated that if someone is part, I thought I heard you say if somebody's part of a conspiracy, that all you could get them for was the paperwork, but if they're really part of the conspiracy, they're on the hook for the whole weight of the conspiracy, all the drug dealing and everything else.
That is correct. It would be, as far as a conspiracy, if you conspire to do something, you conspire to do whatever was in the specific intent of the crime. Yes.
Okay, what you knew you were buying it not for yourself? What other element needs to be in the legislation?
The legislation, at least as has been proposed here by H.R. 452, requires that there either is knowledge or should have known that the individual that you're purchasing it for is part of that precluded class.
So you don't have to know what they were going to do with the weapon. Previous bill said you had to know they were going to commit a crime, which is very possible burden for you.
Right. There is a separate and current federal statute that if you are, and that's maybe your question to me about conspiracy, if you know what is going to happen, what that weapon is going to be used for, then there's a possibility you can draw them in on a conspiracy violation. This does not require it, nor should it, in our opinion, should it be. If we're addressing straw purchasing and trafficking, it should not matter. All that matters, knew or should have known the person that you're giving it to is not lawfully allowed.
And so to follow up from my colleague from Virginia, a law-abiding person who's buying a gift for someone should not be threatened by this legislation. Is that right?
That is correct, and it's twofold. Number one is buying a gift for someone, and they're allowed to have it. There's no violation anyway. And in addition to this particular measure also addresses gifts and excludes the gifts. Okay. There is a gift exception in the proposed statute.
And my final question is, are you satisfied that this does not create any constitutional problems on the Lopez?
I am, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I just want to do one thing before we leave. I want to thank everybody for your participation, and to Ms. Cardino, I want to thank you. I couldn't help but see you, and I was watching you just kind of dab in tears, and as your husband was testifying. I think so often what happens is that, we don't realize the impact that these kinds of incidents have on families. And I just want you to know that we appreciate you and your family and being so supportive of your husband. We know you've been through a lot, but we thank you, and please know that you and your family in our prayers. I just wanted to recognize you. Thank you so much. And so, again, we're going to, I always tell people, witnesses, that you put things out in the universe, and then you push them, and at the appropriate moment, they can bear great significance. This legislation was put out a year or so ago. I think its time has come, and I do believe it will get it through, but it's going to take all of our efforts to make that happen. And what you've done here today has contributed tremendously towards that end. To the members of Congress, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your schedules. Many of the members had to come back a little earlier than they had planned to be here, and I really do appreciate you all doing that. And so we will close this forum and tell our ladies, thank you very much.